Hello, good morning. I have literally just got back from A&E again. I only went in because I rang 111 and they basically told me to go in. They went through all of my medical history with me and they said, look, because it's obvious that you've had an infection over the last 2 to 3 weeks and it's showing up in your blood work, you need to get yourself checked. So I went in again, had all the same similar tests done. They didn't listen to my chest though, but what they did was they kind of poked and prodded me a little, because I'm literally, as I keep telling them, feel like my airways are closing up to the point where I feel like I'm drowning or suffocating. And the fact that even after I eat now, I'm just constantly being violently sick. So all of my esophagus and everything just feels like it's just been completely burnt out with a red hot poker. So they just basically said fluids, and acids, blah, 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 the usual. But they also suggested that I go and see my doctor to see whether or not he reckons I might need to go for any other tests to make sure that I haven't got sleep apnea, but something to do with that little flap in your throat that I don't know what it's called, to make sure that basically it's okay. But they wouldn't have done that at A&E unless they felt like it was a major medical emergency to do so. The same with anything like a hiatus hernia or anything like that requires more invasive sort of procedures and needs to be recommended by my GP. So hopefully I'll be okay. I'm just kind of mentally and physically so frustrated at the moment because, again, the amount of people that were there sort of complaining about the waiting time. And I tried to say, look, I understand you're frustrated, but, I've been here when the waiting time has been over 8 hours. So to wait 4 to 5 hours and then be medically discharged and being told that you're fit to go home, that's a really, really good thing. And again, I don't know what it is. I always seem to get into these spats with people. But there was a lady there whose young boy, when she wasn't there for whatever reason, supervising him, he was getting a little bit loud, and basically he really triggered my PTSD, because he basically turned around and said, all of the staff at this hospital need to be shot or killed. And then they need new staff who are better at taking care of people who are sick. And that really upset me because, there's been so much bloodshed and violence on social media lately. And to actually, within 2 days, witness young boys being verbally abusive and swearing and aggressive to people in society who they do not even know, and to somebody to actually say that in a hospital, all of the staff need to be shot and be replaced, coming from a child, and I had to say, I felt like I had to say something. And I basically said, look, I'm sorry that you had to wait so long with your mom, but, you don't know what the staff are doing in the hospital elsewhere. I'm sure you'll be able to go home soon. And his mom, basically, she just completely flew off the handle and was extremely abusive towards me, to the point that the manager of the hospital had to kind of step in. And when I left, I did say to the staff, look, thank you. You did really well. You handled everything. I couldn't see how it could have been handled any differently. based on the situation. And the other change that they have now done at A&E is they no longer have the Tenacom coming over that does all of the information 24/7. It's only at designated times now. And I did ask the staff and I said, how do you guys feel about the fact that now you haven't got that? We would like to inform everyone that if you are in A&E and you are abusive to any of our staff, that you will be asked to leave, etc., etc., etc. And they said, oh, we are so relieved that we don't have that anymore. And I said, oh, good. I'm glad that they've come to some kind of compromise, because I could see it was stressing people out. But again, I know why they did it, because I was there the day that security got called 4 times. And, and this is what I tried to explain to the mother of this child, that for safeguarding reasons, all the staff were doing was their job. They were saying, who are you? Why are you in A&E? Where is your legal guardian or parent? Why have you been left unsupervised? And I even said, I've been in A&E when it's kicked off. I've been in A&E when they've brought in suspected criminals who have needed medical assistance. Which is why, with myself, they were very explicit and said to me, we want you to go to A&E, but if you have children, don't take them. And I know for some parents that isn't an option. And that was probably the case with this lady with her 2 children. She probably didn't have anyone to supervise them for her while she seeks medical attention. But at the same time, I just felt like, because she had her children with her, even though she was the one waiting to be treated, that maybe they should have been put in the child section of the A&E department for safeguarding. And also, if they had been put in the child section, they still could have called her to come through. But it would have given them something to do whilst they were waiting there with their mom, instead of being surrounded by loads of adults who were ill and saying things like, oh, all the staff in this hospital need to be killed. So, I mean, and I did say to her, look, you were not here when he said that. And it wasn't very appropriate. And she's like, well, he's 10. And like I said to the nurse, yeah, I have a 10-year-old. And if my 10-year-old ever said that to somebody in public, and they turned around and said, hey, don't say things like that, I wouldn't be abusive towards them. But then it's personal preference, I guess, as being a parent. But I wasn't trying to tell her how to do her job. I was just basically trying to answer his questions, because he kept asking people, how long have you been here? Why have you been here this long? And even she, at one point, started shouting at her child. And at that point, I just sort of left her to it. But again, it just shows that, unfortunately, these places, they aren't for children. So when parents, unfortunately, are put in that situation, it is really, really challenging and really hard to deal with. But again, I'm just so shocked as to how the attitude of young people is just lacks so much respect or understanding or consideration for others. And I just don't know how that's going to change, especially with everything that they're currently witnessing online and, within social media, with all of these riots that are taking place. But anyway, I'm going to go now because it's early, but it's late for me. And hopefully, like I said, I'll feel better soon. But again, I just want to thank George Eliot Hospital and their staff for helping me. It's a job I know I could never do. And I just want to say thank you to you all for the support. and having the patients